Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah kafa wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulil mustafa wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada. Wa ba'd. Okay, so we just started our podcast, our weekly podcast that is about weekend English tech talk, weekend English talk. And in today's occasion, uh, we would like to talk about a lifestyle in Singapore with our guest that is Mr. Al Fajri.
Hello
Maybe before
everyone.
that, yes.
Mhm.
Before that, maybe I can introduce myself first. My name is Muhammad Fatur Skifadillah. Um, my relative usually call me Fatur. And in today's podcast, inshallah, I will be the host. So now I give it to Rizky.
Oke, bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For introducing first, me, Muhammad Rizky, as the co-host of this today weekly in English talk. For the first question that would I would ask to Mr. Fajri, that is, can you introduce yourself and share your connection to Singapore?
Yes. Hello everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
my name is Al Fajri Alwis. Usually called Al. Now living in Singapore. I live. I've been here since probably the beginning of the year. So since January. I work for one of Indonesia's bank in Singapore, which I previously worked also when I was in Jakarta. So I've been with this bank for quite some times, and I think it has been 15 years. And they have branch office in Singapore, and they posted me and transferred me to Singapore about a year ago. So yeah, so now I live in Singapore and work in Singapore.
So Mister have been there in Singapore for 15 years.
No, for the bank, which is Indonesian bank based in Jakarta,
Huh?
actually, 15 years. But at
Oh,
their Singapore branch, it's 1 year, almost 1 year.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. So maybe we go to the next question.
Okay.
So uh, what's the first thing that comes to Mr. Al Fajri's mind when you think of life in Singapore?
Hmm. Uh, the first thing that came to my mind about living in Singapore is actually expensive. So it's a quite expensive uh, city slash country. So it's um, uh, including housing. I think moreover housing here like apartment is very expensive compared to Jakarta, and other personal expenses like food and transportation is can be quite affordable, but the housing is quite expensive here. So yeah, I think if you ask me, what is one thing about Singapore that came to my mind when people talk about Singapore is actually it's a country that is quite expensive.
Uh, does the housing comes with different quality than in Jakarta or in Indonesia because of its price?
Um, yeah, not necessarily. I mean, most people live in apartment, right? So,
Hmm.
I mean, landed house is very expensive. So most people living in apartment buildings and condos, and I think for the same quality that we have in Jakarta, um, it's very very expensive. I think it's 4 times, 3 times to 4 times more expensive than
Oh,
what it is in Jakarta with the same quality. Maybe even more, especially for housing. It's
oh,
very very expensive. So I would say maybe around 3 to 5 times more expensive to Jakarta,
oh my God, that's a lot.
but the overall, yeah, that's very a lot, but the
Yes.
overall living quality there is very good. So I think that's what people paying.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so that's one thing that makes it quite mm, bearable. We compensate it with the quality of life, although it's quite expensive.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Jump to the next question. Mr. Fajri, what the typical day like for people living in Singapore?
Um, so maybe I will tell a story. Just focus on what it's been like. People or like me in Singapore, which is work in financial institution or banks. Usually, what people do typically, I think, what's maybe a little bit what's different than what people do here in Indonesia or specifically in Jakarta is they quite start late. I mean, here in my Jakarta office, we started at 7:30, 8 at last, but
Oh.
there we started at 9. So usually in the morning we have a lot time to do anything else before we go to the office. I mean, a lot of people started to working out and to drop their kids to school and having a not rushing morning compared to what it is in Jakarta. So so usually people start at 9 and offices get crowded around 9:30, and then people go to lunch a little bit later, maybe 12:30 to 1 p.m. Unlike in Jakarta, people start eating at 11:30 and 12, and then everything stops. Or usually people go home around 6. So and then after that, they do a lot of different things and personal matters. And yeah, it's mostly like that what I see, at least for myself and my friends working in banks or in other financial institutions. So yeah, that's the different with what I see in living in Jakarta, working in Jakarta is actually the
Oh,
efficiency of
I see.
working hours. So yeah.
Ah, so what? I was just thinking about something. Oh, do you still have time to pray, or does the surrounding
Oh
uh
yes, yes,
kind of
yeah,
does it, yeah,
yeah,
does
yeah,
it
yeah. So it is a very Muslim friendly country because
oh,
there's a lot of Malay people also here, not and Indonesian people definitely. And in my buildings, in at least in my floor, there is a musola that 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 can be used for praying whenever we
Oh,
need. And mosque maybe a little bit not so much, but it's quite easy to find. And usually there's always we every Friday for Jumat prayer we go either to one of the most near our office or one of the most in downtown, or we can also go to the embassy of Indonesian embassy, that they have a big mosque also there. So yeah, it's very Muslim friendly, definitely,
oh,
because I think one of the larger populations in Singapore is actually a Muslim community, which is, I mean, true. The native Singaporean Muslim, Malay, and Malaysian and Indonesian and
oh,
other countries. Yeah, so
a lot.
it's quite
There are a lot of
friendly. And then
Muslims. Yeah.
yes, there's a lot of Muslim. And then I would not worry also about halal food, because it's easy also to find halal food, and
Mm,
it's yeah, it's very convenient.
okay.
And also, Mr., how does multicultural environment influence daily life, especially in Singapore? Maybe.
So the multicultural, or what did you say?
Yes, multicultural
What was
environment
your question?
influence daily life in
Oh,
Singapore, especially.
okay.
Oh,
Uh, yeah. So there are three races that the majority of people live in Singapore, like the Chinese, the Malay, and as well as the Indians. I think they're very. There's no cultural issues that I see so far living here. People are really do not care about your race. They really care about your professional contributions. So yeah, it's not a problem, and people living in very harmonious way, and uh, support each other, and tolerate each other.
mm.
And how
So,
about can you tell can you tell us about Singapore work-life balance and how people unwind after work?
Yeah. So what usually I see what people do after work is they a lot of them hanging out in restaurants and having dinner after a long day at office. One, and then the other one, they also spend a lot of time in exercising or working out. So usually, gym or fitness center are usually packed between 5 to 9 p.m. For people after work office, after work hours. So they work out there, and yeah, I think that's what they mostly do. And then on the weekends, I think there are some activities also that you can do around the island. You can visit many hills for hikings, or you can also
mm,
go to neighborhood countries like Malaysia. Like, I mean, Malaysia to Johor Bahru, for example, for shopping. And they can also go to Bintan or Batam, which is very close by, and it's yeah, that's what usually people do to relax and enjoy themselves.
oh,
Mhm.
uh, so, uh, have you ever go to another country than Singapore? And if you could say, is Singapore better than the other country that you visit?
Yes, I have. I've been to quite many countries, ranging from developed to to like a very modern countries. Um, it's a very intrigued questions because every country has its own ups and downs and
Yes.
pros and cons, right? So I like Singapore because it's a very good for working and professional life. I mean, especially for banking or financial institution industry. The
Yeah. Yeah.
regulation there is very strong, and the professional working there is very well diverse, and you can also get a very good network there. The quality of living in Singapore, as I mentioned, is also quite good. But then, do I want to spend my life here for the rest? I don't think so because I still like
Yeah.
Indonesia much better than Singapore, and so yeah, it's good in its own way, but it has its own challenges as well.
Okay. So, Singapore is also known for its food scene, right? Do you have any suggestions or what are your must try dishes that you have tried in Singapore?
Uh, yeah, it's a very good food scene because it's combination of Malay, Chinese, and Indian, right? So it's there's always many
Yeah,
options that
yeah,
you can get, and it's a very international country or city as well because a lot of foreigners works and live here in Singapore, so you get plenty of choices. But for the local Singaporean, I would say they do have like the nasi lemak, or what we call in
Oh,
Indonesia
okay.
probably similar to nasi uduk, right? It's very similar. I
Nasi,
think it's
yes.
just the same, and so it's very good. And then what I also like in Singapore is actually their laksa. Um, the
Mm,
laksa is very famous, and there's so many good places there. And then they do have this culture where they eat breakfast with a cup of coffee or tea, and with buttered toast and hard soft boiled
oh,
eggs. So that's what typically what people serve in kopitiam for breakfast or brunch, and those also good. So yeah, I think if you ask, and then the chicken rice, the chicken rice, it's also very nice and flavorful. So
tasty.
if you ask me what would be my favorite, I think laksa and chicken rice is the two things that I enjoy the most in Singapore.
Ah, nice, nice. I think I kind of wants to taste them too.
Yes, you should come to Singapore and eat those two at least.
Maybe lah, insya Allah. Maybe
Inshallah.
when I will 12 grade. I don't know see. So in Singapore, are there any unique places? Of course, there are, but do you have any suggestions for like unique places or events that you recommend for someone visiting in Singapore?
Mm. It's a very small country, right? So you can actually do a lot of things in a few days. And I would like, I mean, depends on what people like. Um, some of my friends they do love shopping. So what they do when they come to Singapore only goes to
Sure.
malls and shopping from one mall to another one. Uh, and then but the other thing that we like to do, and when I take my friends when they come to visit, is hiking. So it's very rare to hike in Singapore, right? So there's a this place
Yeah.
called Bukit Timah. It's a very it's a short distance from the downtown where I live.
Mm.
It's I think it's only like 40 minutes by train, MRT, maybe even less than that. And then the hiking was about an hour and a half or 2 hours. So that's
Mm.
usually what we do as well. And what else? I think the sightseeings, they do have a lot of attractions like Gardens by the Bay or the Marina Bay or
Oh yeah, Marina Bay.
the safari. Yeah, they have the world first night safari. So from my perspective, it's just because Singapore is very hot, so they have to do the safari at night because unless it's not gonna be enjoyable. So they have that, which is very very nice, and I think one of the good safaris in
Mm, nice. Interesting ya. Have you ever hiking before, Mr. Fajri?
yes, I mean in I like hiking, so
Oh,
I do hiking sometimes. Even when I was in Jakarta, I hike in Bogor area to one of those churuks.
oh, okay. Apologies for the maintenance because there is a bit. Uh, okay,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
just
that's okay.
continue.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe this will be the last question.
Okay.
So, what do you think makes Singapore stand out as a place to live? And if you could give one piece of advice to someone
Mm-hmm.
moving to Singapore, what would it be?
Okay. So the quality of living, again, I think I just want to emphasize on how good the quality of living in Singapore is. Um
Okay.
so starting from education, basic educations, and then healthcare, and then the working environment, and then the supportive policies and laws that they have for foreigners working in Singapore. Those are quite stands out, and they're very open with the foreigners working in Singapore, and it's a very a good place to develop your professional background and journeys and to build your network because you will meet like a very diverse and yeah, very diverse and people coming from different countries working from so many different industries and sectors, and so it's a very good place to work, and then compensated by a very good life conditions, which healthier lifestyle um, and facilities and support, uh, life support for your, I mean for the environment. So it's really stands out, and I think I've worked before in few different countries beside Indonesia and Singapore, right? But I think Singapore has its a very advanced and very well designed working environment, especially for foreigners. And one suggestion that I would probably give is just looking for, if there's anybody interested to look for a career in Singapore, is a very well
Hmm?
open. So I think there's so many
I see.
opportunities here. So just keep your eyes looking for opportunities, and be open minded with whatever Singapore might have to offer to you. So yeah, be open minded and just explore. If for anyone that actually looking for trying or to have experience to work and live in Singapore.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot. Yeah, we have known a lot about Singapore today. From what I hear, it's a very, very good country, especially its economy. Yeah.
Yes.
economy, and it's technology too, yeah. The
Yes,
technology is,
technology.
I think,
Yeah.
maybe more advanced than Indonesia, yeah.
Yes, I would say so because yeah, the way the government set up the environment for those companies to establish in Singapore is
Yeah,
very neat and very nice. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, okay. Thank you
Okay.
so much for Mr. Al-Fajri that have been uh, accompanying us throughout this podcast.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Bang
And
Fat, Mas Rizky.
yes, do you have any last words, Rizky?
Maybe that's all that we can say for today. Such a lot of question that we've been through to Mr. Fajri. Okay, maybe that's all.
That's all, ya?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Fajri.
Bye
And
bye.
yeah, we'll see you in the
See you.
next time. Okay.
See you next time. Thank you. Thank you, Bang Fatur, Mas Rizky. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Bye. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, for everyone who's watching this stream, thank you for watching. That's all from us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Oke.